Skylanders was one of the most horribly monetized video games in the industry. These games made it clear that Blizzard was going off the deep end, and it started to show the failures of Activision as a company. Seriously, these games sucked if you just bought the base game, which by the way cost around $70 and came with the game itself, the portal required for the game to function, and like 3 Skylanders. There were a total of 32 Skylanders in the first game, as well as extra collectibles that had various functions, including sometimes unlocking brand new levels, which means you have to buy all of this to get everything in the game, which would cost around $225. This is absolutely ludicrous. The developers were also extremely smart when developing the game, because they put these gates everywhere that would keep you from exploring most of the level, unless you had a Skylander that had the correct elemental typing, which meant you had to buy at least 8 Skylanders, one for each element, just to fully explore the levels. Along with this, the original games were extremely difficult, even on the easier difficulty settings. Your Skylanders would die constantly, and if you ran out of Skylanders, it was an instant game over, and you had to start the entire level over again. Which means Skylanders were directly linked with your lives. Meaning if you were 5 years old trying to beat the darkness, and you kept dying, one of the best options to beat him was just to buy more Skylanders. So if you ever bought all the Skylanders, you had a ridiculous amount of lives, and would rarely if never game over. Even the story was designed to guilt kids into buying more Skylanders, because the basic plot of the game was that the bad guy turned all the Skylanders into stone and banished them to Earth for you to buy. Now, to an adult, this is the most stupid story to ever be told. But to a kid who believed his stuffed animals were secretly alive, this meant that the local Target just had a wall of corpses that only you could bring back to life. This stuff is so blatantly manipulative and gross, and the worst part is, these games are actually great. First, you have the world itself. The Skylands are just so cool and visually interesting. You're constantly going from island to island, and there's a real magic to feeling like you're bouncing across all these different floating biomes high above the clouds, with airships floating in the background. For a kid, it's just enthralling. And then, you have that great soundtrack, filling the world with this magical and peaceful feel that helps carry a lot of the atmosphere in the game, and pushes this adventurous tone. Then you got the story, which I mentioned earlier is quite dumb, but the game is really carried by the characters and the people voice acting them. Patrick Warburton does a great job as Flynn, and really breathes a larger-than-life comedical air into him. But besides him, there are so many more iconic characters. Eon, Cassandra, Hugo, Glumshanks, Chaos! Most of them are just your standard fantasy archetypes. But it's their interactions with each other that really make you enjoy their characters, and enhance the humorous tone of the game. Even beyond the main characters, each of the Skylanders, at least in the first game, look, play, and sound distinct. You got the classics, like Spyro the Dragon. Then you have this gold-obsessed maniac imp named Trigger Happy. There's an awesome robot dragon named Jobot, an overgrown asparagus that wields a bazooka? Boomer? Do I need to say more? Each one of these characters have different moves and abilities, and because of the gates that require certain elements to pass, along with the hard difficulty, you're constantly swapping Skylanders and trying out new playstyles. The level design and enemy variety are both decent, and the earlier games can be very long, with the newer games having to be shorter, due to the amount of memory the Skylanders take up. Overall, these games are great, and launched the Toys to Life craze. Along with this, the large amount of characters with different playstyles may have actually gone on to inspire things like Overwatch. For worse, but probably for better. We will most likely never see another one of these games. Call of Duty makes too much money, and Skylanders has fallen into obscurity. Most likely because of its blatant monetization flaws. So, Skylanders is most likely dead, and will never come back. But it still shall be remembered. Because Rule 34 is never gonna forget.